Share. Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Ann Minoff, a local president down in Broward County for Women's Council of Realtors, and I'm joined by 2019 past state president of the Women's Council of Realtors for Florida, Andrew Bell. Thank you so much for being with us today, Andrew.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Wanted to just start off by giving you an opportunity to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Oh, wow. So let's see, I started off in the mortgage business in 2003, did that for about 2 years, and then was recruited to open up a title company. Did that for 5 years, and then I got my real estate license. I did that for 5 years, got my broker's license, and I managed a company for about another 4 years or so. And then in 2020, I opened up my own company. And so I've been doing that now for the last 4.5 years. Been involved with a local board, local women's council, on up through a state, and then also nationally.
Awesome. So let's get started. So as a past state president of the Women's Council of Realtors in Florida, what major contributions would you say you made to the organization during your tenure?
Major contributions. Well, I think the first and foremost is it's pouring into others, right? So, and helping them on their leadership journey. So that's what was done to me, and that's how I got to be state president, was people taking the time to pour into me as a leader. And so it was important for me to be able to do that to others. I guess one of the things that I guess I kind of take pride in is the fact that our local presidents elect, we brought those back to our leadership summit. And the basis for that was, how do we start training our leaders earlier on versus later, so that they have more training, more experience. And it also helps with the transition year after year at the local network. So in 2018, in October, when we did our leadership summit, we actually brought in the presidents-elect along with the presidents from each network, so that the presidents-elect kind of started to see what was going on and they could start planning for their year then. Year is exciting is president for next year, Natalie Derrick, so she's your president-elect this year, is actually opened it up to the entire local network line. Again, just seeing the value in trying to train our leaders early on, versus having everybody kind of figure it out last minute and try and learn on the fly.
That's good. Awesome. So were there any significant initiatives that you launched during your presidency, and which do you believe has had the most lasting impact on our state in terms of success through today?
I don't know about any significant initiatives. I think as a leader, you're multi-year planning, you're not single-year planning. You should be. And that being said is, if that's the case, you look at the things that need adjustment or correction, right? And those are the things you work on. The things that you're doing good, you continue to do good, right? And then you work on the areas that need improvement. So for us, we as an executive line at the time, again, we brought in the presidents-elect so we could start getting them trained earlier rather than later. And then we started to bring back some local position training at our state conferences. So we were working with the membership directors independently, the treasurers independently. And then that has grown over the years, where now they do a monthly call with most of those positions to continue to give them the tools that they need to be successful.
Awesome. So how would you describe your leadership style, and how do you think maybe it differed from some of your predecessors at the state level?
My leadership style. Wow, I don't know if I've ever really thought about my leadership style. I'm a look at the big picture type person, and I'm a let's bring in different aspects, different viewpoints, and then try to build consensus. I think that's important, especially when you're leading at the state level, is you're making a decision that affects 1,500 of your members, right? Now, any good leader isn't making that decision solely on their own, right? So you have an executive line, a leadership team that you work very closely with, and having those conversations, bouncing off those ideas. And typically those decisions are not made by one. It seems that it is made by one, and the president, right, good or bad, is the one who gets the what's it called, the not the notoriety, but gets the, can't think of the word,
Like almost like the praise, I
for the
guess.
decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it gets the praise or not the praise,
The
right?
credit, right.
But it's, yeah, get the credit, right? Gets the credit whether it's good or bad for that decision, right? But it's usually a decision that's made within the leadership team. One of the things that it was important to me with my leadership team is that we all are willing to speak our mind and have that conversation. We don't all have to agree on what direction we go, right? Because if we did, then you don't need 4 or 5 other people to help you make that decision.
Right.
You only need one. So we would have very lively discussions as a leadership team, and then we would decide as a group, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then it is become that time to then execute, and everybody's on board and is supportive of it, whether they agree with it or not, because that is how a leadership team works.
So true, so true. So what types of challenges did you face during your presidency, and how did you address them?
um what challenges did I face? Man, make me dig back. That was like 5 years ago, right?
Right. And before
um
COVID too, so
yeah, before yeah. um I think it was cohesiveness within the line. I don't want to say that there was dissension, but there was just some personalities that didn't click. And I mean, I remember sitting at the leadership summit with just my leadership team and just saying, "Hey, look, like, people want us to fail and people want us to succeed, and that decision happens right here in this room right now. Are we going to fail or are we going to succeed? Because if we're going to succeed, we're going to succeed as a team. If
right.
we're going to fail, we're going to fail as a team, but it will take individuals to make that happen." And we all agreed at that moment in time that we were going to block out the noise and focus on the members and serving the members and providing them what they needed to continue to grow and move forward. And that's what we did.
All right. So you feel like you answered part of this earlier, but if you wanted to elaborate on it. So what was your vision for the future of the council within the state then, and how have you seen it play out today in terms of influencing current programs, policies, priorities?
So interesting, my year, I said anything is possible, right? And that was what I wanted people to realize is that anything was possible. um, it takes work. It takes a lot of work. It takes dedication. Um, being the president of a women's organization, people often like, "Oh, how'd you do it?" I'm like, "I didn't." You know what I mean? Like, first of all, it was women who poured into me and saw value in me as a leader. Um, and then it was women who voted me to get to where I was, which was state president, right? So for me, again, it was about one, pouring back into others as that was poured back into me, and lifting them up and bringing them along, right? I'll never forget. It's a hand up, not a hand out,
Mhm.
right? And so you should always bring people with you as you climb that ladder, right? And enjoy that time with them. You don't want to be up on the mountain all by yourself. You want to be up on the mountain celebrating with your friends, right? So and again, it is, what are the areas that need focus and what are you doing well, right? So the things that you're doing well, you want to continue to do well, and you want to focus on the areas that need attention. So we kind of noticed that, and we broke it down, and that's where we went into having those individual position classes, whether it was membership director, events, treasurer, president-elect, the breakout sessions, to help give them specific tools in their role to be successful at their job. So that was kind of one of the things that we looked at. Again, leadership summit, getting the presidents elect in there was important. Training and leadership skills is what we do, and if we're not giving them opportunities to have that, then we're not doing our job, right? Then networking happens at those events, right? So if you're having the classes that they need to learn, right? The networking will take place. So you're giving them the tools that they need, you're giving them the education that they need. And then that creates the opportunity for networking, which is also one of the pillars of Women's Council, right? So it's not about one person's vision for the year. It's about the leadership's team getting on board with what that person's vision is and building a multi-year vision, and then going and saying, hey, president-elect, in this case, Christine Citrano, right, was president-elect the year I was president. What are you trying to accomplish in the years to come? And how can we start now by helping you, right? And that's the mindset that you want in that level, whether it's the state level or whether it's the local level. That's the mindset that you want. Your presidents should be working with your presidents-elect and saying, hey, look, what can we do now to start helping you for your year, right? Where do you guys see us in 3 years? How do we do that? If you don't have a strategic plan on the local level, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That strategic plan is to help guide your local network for the next 3 to 5 years. And you need to have that, and you need to be reviewing it at least every 6 months as a leadership team and saying, are we accomplishing the things that we set out to accomplish? Do we need to shift? Has our profession changed, right? Did we go through anything recently, right? What are the deliverables that we can bring to our members, and are we doing that? And those are the things that are important, whether it's on a state level or on a local level.
So valuable, so true. So you talked earlier about mentorship, and mentorship plays a huge role in leadership. So what impact do you believe your personal mentorship has had on the council's members in Florida, fostering growth and development? And I know you touched on some of this, if you want to continue to elaborate.
Yeah, I don't know. Mentorship comes in different forms and facets. Sometimes it's just encouraging and being there. Especially as a past president, both locally and on the state, right? So everybody says, oh, as a past president, step out and step aside and let the others lead, right? Which is essentially what you want to do. However, it is not to be disengaged, right? So it is to then encourage and to make yourself available when you are needed, right? So on the local level, I like to try and attend our local board of directors meetings as often as I can, even if it's just to give them some historical perspective on, hey, look, you guys are the leadership team. Let me give you something that we went through X amount of years ago and where we failed, so that you don't make that same mistake, or you can fix what we did wrong to make it better. Right. So helping the local leaders and then encouraging them and being there for them, and then being able to identify, right? So one of the things that I've reached out, a lot of networks struggle when it comes to budgeting, right? Budgeting, reading the budgets, reading the financials and all of that stuff. And so one of the things that I make sure to do with my local network is to say, hey, I will be more than happy to sit down with you and help you do your budget and help you understand the budget and how these numbers go in and why they are the way that they are, and work with them on how to read the profit and loss, right? So that rather than it just being numbers. That really what helped me was serving on the state level with finance and budget, and then becoming a state treasurer and continuing to serve at that level. It gave me the knowledge and experience that I needed to be able to do that on a local level. On a state level, when it comes to mentoring, right, it's trying to identify those to move up from, president-elect to president to district vice president, to the state line, but also to run a task force or a committee, right? And to identify those and encourage those people to be involved, and say, hey, look, it is a tough road. However, it's worth it, right? Diamonds were formed out of coal and a lot of pressure, right? So, be a diamond, but be a diamond, in the rough, and know that it's going to take work to get there. So finding those people that you see that in, and having those encouraging words. It's interesting because past President Charmaine Hickey says this often, is when we were coming up, and I remember one day she came up to me about what she was getting ready to say. And I said, put your notes away and speak from the heart. You don't need those. And that is my challenge to you. And so she took that challenge, and she'll tell you, like, to this day, right? I said, because you have what it takes, and that's the next step that you need. And that's what she did. And she put the notes away and she decided to speak from the heart. And I can't say that, oh, I'm the one that made her grow. No, I'm just the one who saw what was inside of her and encouraged her to take that step and then watch her bloom.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And so inspiring. And it's so true. I kind of feel a little bit myself sometimes. I'm a little bit crippled with my notes. And I've gotten better with like then going full blown notes to bullet points to just some ideas. But yeah, it can still, you continue to keep seeing, looking down. It's just when it comes from the heart, it's just so much better. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
well, don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
So having notes isn't bad, right?
no,
It's your bullet
it's
points.
the
Yeah, I
crippling
mean, like it's your
component of it.
bullet points to keep you, yes, to keep you on track.
Yes.
But when you speak from the heart, right, there you don't have to memorize anything. All you have to do is just speak from what's within inside of you. The passion comes out, the commitment comes out, and people connect with you because you're like, man, he or she really feels and means what they are saying. When you start to just read off of a piece of paper on what it is, you have a hard time connecting with that person.
Right.
But when you speak from the heart, it is a connection and people go, oh, okay. And it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to go, I have completely lost my place. Let me go back here real quick. Oh, here we go. Right. It's okay to be, to make mistakes. It's okay to be fallible and to let people see that. Because often people want to put leaders on a pedestal and go, oh, they're perfect. No, no, they're not. We're not. Right.
Right.
We
Right.
make mistakes and it's okay to be able to say, hey, you know what? Let me back up, rewind. Where was I? Oh, here I am. Let's go. Because then people go, oh, it's okay. Right. Like
True.
I can do that. It's okay to take a second, process the question, and then answer it. You don't have to, everybody feels like they have to be on the spot with an answer for the question right when they ask the question. No,
Right.
I learned that going through nominating, like process the question. What are they asking me? Think about it
Yeah.
and then answer.
Yeah, I mean, authenticity, people are drawn to authenticity. So you're 100% on the money with that, and I kind of do feel that, we say we're in a real, in real estate, people have to know, like, and trust you, but when they can feel like they can connect with you, that's what makes it all the better. So I do think that, and it
Right.
conveys through and through, whether it's women's council or somewhere else, in your local association or anything, even in community related, people connect with authentic people that they feel
Yeah,
genuinely that they just are drawn to for a particular reason. So I could not agree more on
I agree.
that. So could you discuss any advocacy campaigns that you spearheaded during your presidency in Florida? What was the goal and was it achieved? People usually like to talk about RPAC, but I did find out that way further back, there wasn't RPAC was not always on the radar for Women's Council. It has, kind of
Yeah.
come more into that. So I feel like in the last 5 years at least, minimally.
So I think and it's one of these two past presidents. I'm not 100% sure which one. It was either Audrey Lackey or Gia Arvin who put into the budget um, uh, Women's Council Florida being an RPAC major investor, kind of putting our money where our mouth is. I just don't remember if it was Audrey who did it the first year and then Gia put it in her budget, or if Audrey put it in her budget. But that goes back to 2016 and 2017.
Okay.
So we've been doing it a little longer than people realize, and it's been budgeted for quite a while now. It's interesting. Maybe we don't do a good enough job at the state level of conveying that to our members. We should be saying, hey, Women's Council of Florida is a major investor in RPAC. And so that was that was probably the biggest thing for us, because it was still relatively, within a few years was doing the RPAC and becoming a major investor.
Right. And even like the last few years with the pins, the blue diamond pins, which makes, kind of people look and say, oh, where'd you get that pin from? And it just opens the conversation up to where you got the pin from. Be a women's council member and you'll get
Yeah.
recognized for being a major investor.
Yep. And that was Paige Brewer.
Hmm.
Yep, that was Paige Brewer's idea, on recognizing our members as major investors. And I think it's a great idea, right? It's I don't want to say everybody likes to be recognized, but most people like to be recognized, some, whether it's private or whether it's public. And the Blue Diamond is a great way for us to recognize our local members who are major investors in RPAC.
Right. And it's a great conversation starter, like I said, because then when people see it, it's different. So even when you walk the halls of Florida Realtors or National Association of Realtors, it's a conversation starter. So I think it's a great thing. So what key
I agree.
lessons do you think current members in Florida can learn from both the successes and the setbacks you've experienced?
Um, Setbacks, successes and setbacks. One of the things that I learned in my journey, and it was hindsight 2020, is I expected the same from people that I expected from myself. And that was not fair to those people. And that was, I don't know if it was a setback, but it was a revelation afterwards. And I learned that, it was after I was state president that I came to the realization of that. But I 100% use that today as part of my growing leadership journey, right? Is to not expect what of others what I expect from myself. That's an unfair expectation to put on others. As far as success, honestly, I was president 5 years ago. I, Hopefully, anything that did that was successful back then, we've just built on and we're continuing to move forward. And I think that that's probably the biggest success is the fact that we're still able to identify leaders, train leaders, and put quality leaders in place to take us to the next level.
So true. So how would you say your earlier experiences at the local level or even skills helped shape your approach to your statewide campaign?
So the local level gave me an opportunity to learn a lot and fail a lot, right? Now I say fail a lot because everybody gets all scared, like, oh, I don't want to fail, I don't want to fail. I failed by my accounts, and I'm sure I failed some of our local members, right? Whether it was ever said to my face or not. I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect. But it gave me the opportunity to learn, right? And it also gave me the opportunity to meet people that would pour into my life to help me grow. I will never forget when I first started getting involved in Women's Council, it was, I think, 2006 or 7. And Audrey Lackey asked me to come to her office to have lunch, and she was going to be the president of the network. I worked for a title company at the time. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, am I in trouble? What did I do? I have zero idea what's going on. And so I'm sitting in her office, and to tell you how impactful, we had Longhorn for lunch. This was, again, over, heck, at this point in time, we're closer to 20 years than we are 10 on how long ago it was. But she goes, I want you to be my marketing chair. And I was like, ooh, I don't know that I don't know that. And she's like, you can do this. And it was at that moment that I realized that somebody saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And she goes, you're not going to fail. We're all here for you. It's a team. And so that opportunity that the local network gave me, and knowing that they're to help support each other and carry them through. So as a local network president, right, I knew that I had resources to not fail. Right. So I was able to have my past local network presidents. Hey, this is the challenge I'm facing. How do I deal with it? And then as I started to kind of, we'll call it, move up through state, right? Those people then became past state presidents that I went to. So I would go to a past state president. How do I navigate this? How do I handle this? This is what I'm facing. How do I deal with this? How do I overcome this? Not being afraid to ask for help, I think, is a great character trait for a leader. so many people are afraid to ask for help because they don't want to look weak. And for me, asking for help, right, was a way to say, hey, how do I make sure that I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm doing it right? And so, when I guess we call it, moved up the state line, right? Often would go back to the past state presidents, and I'd be talking to one and they go, who you really should talk to is this past state president, because they dealt with something more specific in that area. And I was like, oh, okay. The members don't know a lot of what goes that we have to deal with on the state line, right? But a lot of the past state presidents have dealt with a lot of things that nobody else does. So when you call the past state president, you're like, hey, I'm dealing with this. Then they'll go, oh, who dealt with that is Rosemary Mahoney. Call Rosemary and ask her how she dealt with it. And so my leadership journey grew, I got to build relationships with the past state presidents who mentored me as I grew into my role as state president. And so it's important. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and have those conversations and build those relationships. And when you're on the local level, it's going to be your local network past presidents, right? As you continue to make your way up, right? Some of those local past presidents may have never served as a district vice president or as a governor when we had governors, right? So they don't know how to advise you and counsel you. That's where your past state presidents come into play. And I will tell you, the past state presidents, if you're a local member listening to this, is pick up the phone, call, text, ask to talk to a past state president. They will 100% pour into you and answer your questions. Don't be afraid. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't call a past state president. Yes, you can. Yeah. We are all here to see you grow and to see you succeed. So don't hesitate to reach out.
And what you're saying is exactly the reason why I started this, because I felt like sometimes when you walk in these halls, like I said, at Florida Realtors or even National Association of Realtors, and you go through these women's council meetings, and it can feel like a lonely place. Like you can feel like you're just isolated in a situation. And I don't think that people, when they think about the council just being such a valuable web of resources, but if people are strangers to you, then it's kind of it's a little daunting. So the whole goal was for members to be able to watch these videos and be able to relate and correlate and connect, and then be able to seek people out the next time they see them and say, hey, Andrew, I totally related to what you said, and I just feel so inspired. And that was the goal of this whole thing, because there are so many resources at our fingertips, and there's so many people with a heart willing to help. I feel like there's such a
right.
And it takes a special person to really get involved in leadership with Women's Council. And additionally, that doesn't go away. Even once they've, like you said, like served a particular role, or, have moved on, or maybe, kind of just in a different position in their life. So I just really encourage members to do exactly what you're saying, like reach out. There's so many people out there willing to kind of cheer you on, talk to you about different things, give you insight, give you opportunity to be able to rethink through things and find a way through it.
100%. 100%. It's funny, just sitting here talking to you made me think of something that I'm like, ooh, I'm going to call, President-elect Natalie Derrick, who will be our president next year, and go,
right.
I have an idea for you that I think will be of benefit, that will help, for the year. And that's, it's not about who gets the credit for it. It's about how do we continue to take our network to the next level.
Right.
And so I've got an idea coming from here. I jotted the note down, and when we're done, I'm going to reach out to her and say something to consider. She'll be the president. She doesn't have to implement it, right? But something for her to consider, or, in some form or fashion, whether it's this year or later down the road.
Could not agree more. So as we round out our time here today, wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us any sage words of wisdom, anything, if I knew then what I know now type of aha moments would you love to share with members?
Oh man, yeah, I'll tell you this. So let me ask you quick: who sees this? Is it the members? Is it only those who come to conference or those who don't? I mean,
I'm
it could be
tagging it on
anybody.
on social media, so anybody can, anybody is able to pretty much see it. But the goal is
Okay,
obviously for members.
perfect. So for years, as a local network member, I was told by Audrey Lackey, you need to come to state, you need to come to state. And I'm like, I really don't see that there's anything for me at state. I worked for a title company. Finally, and well, she's going to hear this. I broke down. I'm like, okay, she'll stop telling me I need to come, right? I love you, Audrey. So I went. Oh my goodness, right? My eyes opened to see the network at a completely different level, right? I'm like, holy moly. And so that changed my love and my passion for Women's Council because I got to see it at a different level. And and so I started to get plugged in, working for the title company. You know what I mean? I was going to the state conferences. I was growing as a person. And so what I would tell people is get involved. Your membership means nothing if all you're going to do is pay your dues and not show up. If that's the case, honestly, don't even join, right? Like it doesn't, it's of no real benefit if you're not going to get involved. If you want to get something out of it, get involved. Start on the local level, figure out where you can help. We always need help on the local level. We always have things that we're trying to do, and we always need extra hands and extra ideas, right? But don't stop there. You need to get to a state conference, figure out how to make it happen, see if your local network has any scholarship stuff that can help get you there. I know our local network has a specific line item in the budget carved out for membership travel to get there. Not every network does. Some have more, some have less. Room with somebody, figure out how to get there and get involved because you will start to see and grow at the next level. And be involved, take that leadership journey, do that first vice president, do that treasurer, do that president elect, do that president. The things that you will learn on that path are far more important than the actual maybe goal of president, right? It's what you learn along the way that it really makes the difference in your life. And you will use that across the board. I use it as a father and as a husband. Women's Council helped me to learn to be more patient in my decision making. I was a very rash decision maker. I would make a decision like this, and if it was a bad decision, I would own it. If it was a good decision, I would own it. But I learned from when I was president elect on the local level, following my behind my president, that I didn't have to make that decision. I could wait, take in, get the answers, and make sure that I understood it before making a decision. So the things that I learned in my journey have helped me to be a better husband, a better father, a better leader, equip me with the tools to be able to open up my own company. But none of it would have happened if I just would have showed up like I was showing up and not participating. It all changed when I started to participate on the local level, and then again on the state level, and then on the national level.
Well, I know I keep saying it. I could not agree more. 10,000% agreed, agreed, agreed. But I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today and really kind of giving us all these pearls of wisdom and these just gems of just knowledge and just foresight of things that you've experienced. So I can't thank you enough, Andrew Bell, for the opportunity to get to know you better.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed this.
All right. Thank you so much.